the show. Remember, it's 055 1111997. 055 1111997 here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. Thank you for joining us here on the show. My name is Nathaniel Attoh, and I'm here ably supported by the rest of the Joy Sports team.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Yeah, I think I can say I've heard a lot of talks going on between my current club and the Saudi club, and yeah, they showed me the project they have for me, and I'm happy with it. But for now, I'm going back and I'll meet with my team and we'll see what we do. But for now, I think there are still talks going on. Yeah, I think it's just not about Saudi. I think there are a lot of big players over there. I think we have Cristiano Ronaldo and the rest over there. It's a competitive league. It's not like just Saudi, as people know. But I think for that, they have a lot of players where you can develop. I think, and the team is also a good team, and I think they have a lot of quality players there. But for me, let's say me moving to Saudi, it's not about the money or it's not about anything. It's just about me. I think progressing in my football and yeah.
Talk about the environment. If we are indeed to move to Saudi, we will have the luxury of playing with Jerry Ifri. Are you looking forward to play with him?
Yeah, I think if everything goes well, I think I'll be happy to play with him because he's my friend and I know we know each other. So play along him will be very nice, and I'll be very happy to. Yeah, of course. I think I'm still young. If I'm doing well over there, I think I'm giving everything to the club or everything out, and they are interested in Europe. I think we'll see what we do.
With full respect of Malawi and Benin that we have played against, Nigeria is one step up, one of the best teams in Africa. Good players on almost every single position, so it's going to be a very, very tough game, but that's also what we need now. Now we have to show that our lowest level is high enough. We know that we can score goals. We know that we have a good defense as well. So it's just going to be fun to match against one of the best teams. And I'm really looking forward to that one.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Definitely, indeed. So we're going to be talking about the transfer market, like I mentioned earlier. And we're going to be throwing focus on some key Ghanaian talents, as they are referred to, and look at which direction they could be going. With, of course, the Cristiano Ronaldo example that's much talked about this week as the inspiration. Welcome to the Joy Sports Link once again. My name is Nathaniel Attoh. And it's always a pleasure to serve you this time of the day on a Saturday. But anytime you hear this, then you know it's time to talk Formula One. Okay. Time to take a look at Austria, right? David Aloka, the usual suspect, is here with us. David wears many hats, in fact. He wears a bit of boxing, a bit of Formula One, a bit of football, and all of it is depending on the season. So today, if it were raining, we probably would have been talking some boxing. David, good to see you.
Back.
Okay, great stuff indeed. Now, before we get in, we're going to be talking some transfer talk as well later on in the show. But we're gradually cutting the year into two. I mean, we've cut the year into two by the 12-month calendar, but also by the F1 calendar as well. We're getting there gradually. Austria, what are the memories and what does it immediately bring to you? Especially when it comes to the kind of challenge it will pose to the drivers. This is always my area of interest for every race.
Austria is a circuit that the drivers absolutely love. It's a fun circuit, very, very fast circuit over there. And it's a circuit that the drivers, it has quite a lot of high-speed corners. It's very challenging from that perspective. And it's a race that the fans also really love. The European circuits provide different challenges to those outside of Europe. They're very classic circuits with very small runoff, so it's a lot more dangerous. The stakes are far higher when it comes to European circuits because there's so little runoff. If you make a mistake, you end up in the wall. So the drivers have to be very, very well skilled, very, very focused, and ready for the challenge. It's a great race. Austria is.
Now, what from the last race day do you believe can be repeated or can be replicated, or something that we need to watch out for as we're going into Austria? What are the key takeouts from from the previous race that you feel all drivers must watch out for?
Well, most importantly, the McLarens need to make sure they don't end up crashing like they did they did last time out. Especially for the Constructors' Championship, they need those points. They need both cars to finish, especially the fact that both cars are currently the best car in Formula One at the moment. So we need both Oscar and Lando Norris to stay out of each other's way when it comes to race day in and of itself. They've been very good so far in the weekend's practices. So FP1 and FP2, and they've literally just finished first practice 3. Lando Norris topped the times in FP3. Oscar Piastri second in FP3, with Max Verstappen in third. So I think as long as the two drivers of McLaren can stay out of each other's way and make sure that, because they definitely will be racing up against each other, but as long as they keep it clean and fair, it will be good for the team, because both cars finishing means more points. And we all know in Formula One, points mean prizes.
Yeah, indeed. Let's talk about performances so far for you. Who has impressed you the most up to this point? Which driver or which team would you say have impressed you the most in terms of improvement and in terms of performance up to this point?
To be honest with you, driver-wise, I'm very impressed by Kimi Antonelli, the rookie driver who has taken Lewis Hamilton's seat over at Mercedes. He, the pressure of having that seat is very high, but he has performed exceedingly well. I think I'm very proud of what he's been able to accomplish in such small time within Formula One. It's his first season in Formula One, first season in that team with big shoes to fill, and he's done so very, very well. He's impressed me. Obviously, you've got the McLarens at the front. You've got Oscar Piastri. He hasn't impressed me. He's one of my favorite drivers at the moment. He hasn't impressed me because I expect this of him. He is a very, very good, cool, calm, and collected driver. But in terms of ones to watch, for me, it's Kimi Antonelli and it's Mercedes as a whole, because they didn't take very well to these recent rule changes. But this season, it seems like they've got the car going, and it's providing a decent challenge, a good enough challenge, as we saw last time out with George Russell winning the race.
Let's now talk about the course, the horseshoe-like course. 4 fast straights, but before those 4 fast straights and added to those 4 fast straights are some very, very interesting twists and turns on the course. A very, very interesting course, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
When looking at the Formula One racetracks across the season, there's so many different. I'd say so many different either animals or objects that a lot of these courses can be compared to. The Bahrain circuit looks like a rabbit on some skis. This one looks like a horseshoe. But all of them provide different challenges and different creative difficulties to the drivers. I particularly like Austria, and it has probably the most beautiful backdrop out of all races on the circuit. Austria is absolutely stunning.
Let's now get down to the business of the predictions and how you believe it's going to end. And then we'll go to the viewing party.
Absolutely. I think this race is going to end with 2 McLarens on podium, as well as Max Verstappen. Today, the timings of FP3 ended with Lando in first, Oscar in second, and Max Verstappen in third. I think for Lando Norris, it has to end that way, or his chances of winning the Drivers' Championship is slipping further and further away from him. But for me, I think Oscar will come through first. I'm going Max Verstappen in second, and I'm going Lando Norris in third.
Okay, do you agree with... Do you agree or disagree? Well, we'll see. What's the plan for tomorrow?
The plan for tomorrow is all going down at Silverbird Cinemas. Silverbird Cinema at Accra Mall is the viewing party. We had an exceptional viewing party yesterday of the F1 the movie. It came out yesterday, and it was absolutely packed. So many people in there, so many fans of the sport watching the movie. So I believe we'll have probably one of our biggest screenings tomorrow. So head down to Silverbird Cinemas tomorrow afternoon. I think we'll be open from like 12 o'clock. We even have the guys from Pit Stop in Laboni. They've set up a nice bar there, so if you want to come and have some nice cocktails, some nice drinks, you know what I mean, come down there, and it's going to be a great time.
Amazing stuff there. All right, David, thank you so much, and we'll catch you tomorrow at the Silverbird Cinema. The show is going to be amazing. You look like you've already seen the results in the air somewhere. Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed and see if David's prediction comes through, and then we'll take it from there. All right, David, thank you so much. We'll catch you tomorrow, and hope it all goes well.
Thank you.
This is it, Ghana. The Clash of the Titans is back. Bigger, brighter, and bolder than ever. Gauka, in collaboration with the Ministry of Sports and Recreation, proudly presents the 2025 President's Cup. On Sunday, July 6th at the Accra Sports Stadium, it will roar to life as the nation's fiercest rivals, Accra, Tsewok, and Kumasi Asante Kotoko, battle for glory, pride, and the President's Cup crown. And guess who will be in attendance? His Excellency, the President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama. Kickoff is at 4 p.m. sharp. Don't miss the color, the passion, the drama. Be part of the history. Hearts or Kotoko, who will reign supreme?
All right, the President's Cup comes up next weekend. That show will be a very interesting one. Someone was asking the question, why Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak all the time for these kinds of prestigious cup matches? Well, it's a question we'll answer later on, But in terms of draw and in terms of the poll, I guess that they still have the bite that can get all the fans there to celebrate the President's Cup. Who wins it? Well, would get to see. Hearts of Oak need to just up their game and, lace it up with Kumasi Asante Kotoko and would see how it goes. But during the week, we're going to do a long, sustained preview towards the President's Cup game, which will have the sitting President of the Republic, in attendance. This is put together by the Ghana League Clubs Association, and this is a prestigious cup match, which is, always reserved to celebrate the sitting President of the Republic. So let's see how things go, for that big one, Kumasi Asante Kotoko versus Accra Hearts of Oak, another installment of the Super Clash. Before we get into the conversations this afternoon, we hit a note of, sorrow during the week, in the sporting fraternity here in Ghana. During the week, we were hit with two very unfortunate pieces of news. Things we rather would not have heard. But that's the reality of life, unfortunate as it is. Two former presidents of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana passed on within the space of about 10 days. First, it was Mr. Aka Anthony. Mr. Aka Anthony, and then it was his predecessor, Mr. Ebu Kwanzaa. Mr. Ebu Kwanzaa served the Sports Writers Association of Ghana after an illustrious career in journalism, having served some of the biggest print media houses in the country, being a very vibrant columnist, and then eventually serving the Sports Writers Association of Ghana as its president for the better part of 7 years. Also, Mr. Aka Anthony was an assistant editor of the Graphic Sports newspaper at the Graphic Communications Group, and was also the celebrated columnist of the Candid Corner, which was always on the back page of the Mirror, the Saturday Mirror newspaper, under the Graphic Communications Group stable. They always say man proposes and God disposes, and sometimes you just don't understand why these things happen. But our hearts go out to their families, Mr. Aka Anthony and Mr. Ebu Kwanzaa. Two great gentlemen who paid their dues to the profession of journalism, brought many up, inspired many, and now they have gone to be with the Lord. So what we have to do as a body is obviously to hold on to the positive things that they taught us and what they stood for, the kind of impact that they made. May the souls of Mr. Aka Anthony and Mr. Ebu Kwanzaa rest in peace. From all of us here at Joy Sports at the Multimedia Group to their families.
Until you come and sit a while with me, you raise me up so I can't stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on storms.
Sad as it is, we just have to come to terms with the reality. We continue to pray for their families, and we hope that God gives them light in these rather tough times. All right, so let's get down to the conversations. And during the week, or the past couple of days after the end of the season in Europe and in other parts of the world, we have zoomed in on the transfer window. It is always said and it is always seen with evidence that the summer transfer window is the most active and the most controversial and the most lucrative as well. Well, one of the key stories that have come out of the window is the big story of Cristiano Ronaldo, who by calculation is supposed to earn 150 Ghana cedis every second. Yes, 150 Ghana cedis every second. I don't want to go into the details. I see David is on his phone trying to, do some calculations. But hey, I mean, this is it. This is the standard when it comes to, anything anybody wants to aspire to with money and with what money can do for anybody. Gentlemen, let's just go around the table before we get into the Ghanaian interest. Obviously, we're going to start off with Thomas Partey after the announcement that he likely is not going to stay at Arsenal and must move on. We'll talk about Antoine Semenyo. We'll talk about Kudus Mohammed. And we'll try to, figure out where they could likely be going and which places they could likely be going and what the considerations are. Because for football fans, for them, it's, we want to see you in the biggest clubs. But is it always about just the biggest clubs? Because, until Cristiano Ronaldo got into the Saudi league, it may not have been the league that anybody necessarily followed. We didn't have as many numbers as it did. But something has happened. There's a transformation. And that is what we want to give light this afternoon on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. David Aloka stays on for a couple of minutes with me here in the studio. And of course, joining us from a distance are Felix Remark. Felix Remark is a seasoned data journalist and also a board member of the Ghana Football Awards. Also joining us from the heart of London is Coach Kwejo Ejejima. He's known in football and sporting circles as Passionate Man. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Let me begin with you guys. Let's begin with you, Felix Remark. Felix, on the very light note, when you heard about this Cristiano Ronaldo deal, the improved deal, what were the first things that struck you? I mean, it didn't come as a surprise, but hey, now it's writing a different kind of history.
Well, Nat, thanks so much and a very good afternoon to your listeners. The first thing that came to mind was, I'm in the wrong profession. I'm in the wrong profession. And I asked myself, why is God giving so much money to just one person? But then I also have to say, kudos to his team. And as if you are a footballer, this should be an inspiration that talent alone might not get you where you want to be. You need to work hard. You need to make sure that you have the right people around you, right? Because Cristiano Ronaldo is not doing this by himself. I'm sure the brand alone, he might have about 300, 500 people working for the Cristiano Ronaldo brand. So it takes a lot to get to the level.
Hold on, Felix. Hold on. Felix, hold on. Look, even if he has 1,000 people working for the brand, he can pay everybody handsomely and still have a good, have a good time and, do what he wants to do all over the world.
Oh, of course.
Added to that is a private jet at his disposal every time he wants to. David, this is crazy.
No, I think that the most shocking part is the fact that he gets 15% ownership of the club that he's playing for.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. But hey, he deserves it. He's worked for it, and I must say this. I think that gone are the days when you want to play football and your parents will tell you go to school. Now
if you don't wear the jersey, they will chase you with a cane to go and play.
No, and parents are even paying top dollars to have their kids join an academy to learn how to play football or improve on their skills when it comes to football. And I love that. And I think that for us as a country, we have the talent. The most important thing is for us to develop the talent. And it could be another source of foreign exchange income for the country. Even for now, Nathan, I'm sure that if you look at remittances that comes from Ghanaian players, you're talking about transfers. There is Christopher Ban who wants to go to Qatar. There is Jerry Free who went to Qatar. Thomas Partey wants to sign a deal. And some of these monies that these players are making, a lot of them comes back to the country as remittances. I just hope that one day Sascar Service will be able to tell us that This is the amount of money footballers playing outside the shores of Ghana contribute in terms of what Ghana gets when it comes to the GDP projections. How much footballers contribute in terms of remittances to this country. And I believe that they are contributing a whole lot.
Well, remittances, I mean, for free, would know, I mean, without any much, deep consultation, you know that remittances are among the top 5, foreign exchange earners, if not among the top 3.
But I wish I could get the exact
major
figures
resources.
for football.
Yeah.
I wish I could get the exact figures
for
when
football.
It comes to football.
Yeah.
But it could be a point where Ghana can decide that, yes, we export cocoa, we export diamond, we are into oil production. But what we can also do, like the Brazilians are doing, is football export of talent. And we have them in abundance. What we need to do is make sure that we develop it. Imagine Cristiano Ronaldo is a Ghanaian. I'm sure Ghana will be chasing him to at least loan us some money instead of going to the IMF or the World Bank.
Let's come to you, David. I'll come back to you, Felix, in a bit. David, same. I'm sure you've got similar thoughts. I mean, this is an amazing thing. And also a very big lesson, in terms of the journey he's traveled, I mean, how he's branded himself and all of that.
Absolutely. It's a lesson not only in marketing, but it's also a lesson in work ethic. He has worked himself into this position.
I agree with you 300%.
Yeah, over so many years. When it comes to, I always say the reason as to why I even admire Cristiano, right, is because him as a person, he shouldn't be in the conversation with Messi, because Messi is more naturally gifted than he is. Far more, right? But he has worked himself into the conversation. That shows the hard work and the dedication, that when something seems impossible, he as a human being has the mentality to say, you know what, I will beat him in some way. And the way I'll beat him is in the practice that I'll put in, the work, the physicality, the physical training. He is even last week they voted one of his header that he scored for Juve as the best header ever scored in the game. Period. The guy has a superior mentality, and that is what he is reaping from right now. I think a lot of times in this day and age, we have a lot of players that want to reap the kind of rewards that he has without understanding the amount of work that he has had to put in. 40 years old, come on, the money that he's... And it's funny because a lot of people didn't even think that he would end up staying at Al Nassr because, the inaugural FIFA World Cup, would he not want to be in the inaugural FIFA World Cup? Messi was going to the inaugural FIFA World Cup and so on and so forth. They were thinking maybe he might go to Al Hilal or another team that is in it, just so that he can, because he's a person that chases legacy as well. But this deal is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's
unbelievable indeed. Let's go to London, and Kwadwo Jejima is there. Passionate man, Charlie, this one is big. It's big, and like Felix Remark said, parents will have an even bigger reason to chase their kids with all sorts of things, from words through to objects, to get on the field and start playing.
Yeah, no, I just think Ronaldo he's an institution now. So people would have to look at Ronaldo as an institution rather more than a footballer. He's worked his way out. He's carved a niche for himself. Also, when you look at his contribution generally to football across boards, I think Ronaldo stands tall. It's not just about footballing, because we've had some great footballers that really, haven't impacted the game that much, regardless of how much talent they had. Ronaldo is like a Lee of boxing. He brings a lot of excitement to the game. His antics, his remarks, his comments, everything he does to the game elevates football, and predominantly put football as the biggest sports activity globally, above other sporting disciplines. So that's who Ronaldo is. That's what he represents. So for me, I'm not looking at the money now. Ronaldo can command any money that he wants, but he's an equity himself. You have to look at that, So I just think that it's another day to celebrate how far and, great mileage for football. David Beckham started this whole thing. Yeah. He took it to the next level. Now he's a co-partner with Miami. And so Ronaldo is heading towards that same direction. Remember when David obviously did come to, start off with United, how much money he was making, the fame. To a point now, he's been knighted as a sir. He's been knighted as a sir. And I see Ronaldo moving in his own knighthood, in his own direction. And that's what it is. It's not money about anymore for Ronaldo. It's about what impact that his name can have on the next generation and generations to come.
Amazing. Now, that just sets the tone for those who are still within the space and trying to, find their feet and also trying to firm up their places within their respective clubs. 2 weekends ago, we had the Ghana Football Awards, a very successful, colorful event. And once again, Thomas Partey was named the Men's Footballer of the Year. Doris Boudoir was named the Women's Footballer of the Year. Later on in the show, would have a conversation with her. Would go over to Morocco where they're in a training camp and have a quick conversation with her about how she's preparing for the Africa Cup of Nations. But Thomas Partey has set a record at the Ghana Football Awards at becoming the first player to lift 3 trophies. That's just amazing, winning that accolade 3 continuous times. But traveled a very, interesting journey in Europe, solidified his place in Atleti, had a long run there, and then this big move came. He went into Arsenal. Halfway through, he started getting injury challenges and all of that. And then the day of making a major statement, and I believe that, the UEFA Champions League season that's just gone by, where we saw him put up a masterful performance against Real Madrid, was one of a major statement for him. About his quality, stamping his name in there again, and putting himself in the faces of all those who make the decisions. Kwejo, a good thing. A good flip of the chapter that he's leaving, or maybe he could have stayed on. What are your thoughts?
I think if Arsenal loses Partey, it's been said all over the news here, it's a big loss for Arsenal. The season is going to be long. Zubimendi obviously is coming in, but he needs to adapt to the tempo of the Premier League, and that sometimes can take a while. And so that's another thing. Also, I've watched Zubimendi the whole of last season, previous seasons, and especially last season. Most of the big games, he was lost in most of the big games. I didn't see the impact of Zubimendi in those games. And so for me, Arsenal needs Thomas Partey. They need to keep Partey for this season so that they can compete for the rest of the matches. One reason, last season, Partey was Arsenal. He was the anchor of the team, not Rice, not Odegaard. Partey was the anchor. He was the one that set Arsenal the tempo, however they go, what direction, and how the flow of the team was going to be like. You don't want to lose that man this season. Remember, City is strengthening up. Newcastle, they keep strengthening. Chelsea, they're almost strengthening, and they bought a few players in. All these top 6 teams are strengthening. If Arsenal is going to be consistent, if they're going to have a very, very good season, they need to keep hold of Thomas Partey regardless. Even if he plays a big part and he's kept on the bench or whatever role you give him, keep to his wages and keep him for at least one more season, because it's going to be a very, very, very long season. And, you never know what Zubimendi is going to be like in that Arsenal setup. Yes, he can pick a pass, but I've seen him so much to a point that his character doesn't even interest Real Madrid that much to sign him. Because if he was that player, believe you me, Madrid would have signed him. They had the option to sign him from last season, and they did not really go for him. What we reported in the news, what we heard in the news, that maybe Madrid was trying to make a last minute. Nah, I don't think so. I think if Madrid really wanted Zubimendi, they would have signed. So for me, you need to keep Partey at all costs, because he glues the team together. Zubimendi is not a defensive midfielder. He hasn't got that physicality to be able to stand in terms of how Arsenal play, the glue. Partey has that, like a deep playing midfielder, but at the same time can be box to box in the midfield. And when you need him offensive, like we saw last season, where he was almost like an offensive midfielder in that Odegaard role when Odegaard got injured. So they need to keep hold of him regardless. Yes, you can talk about the wages, but believe you me, Arsenal is making enough money to keep Partey for one more season. because next season is going to be a make or break for Arteta. If he doesn't win the title after 7 seasons, I think he's out of the door. And so he needs to keep hold of Thomas Partey. Yes, you can talk about Merino. Yes, you can talk about the rest of the other players. But none of these players have the characteristics of Partey, who is a different player in his own way, who plays differently from the rest of the other players. So for me, it's almost impossible it's almost impossible to let Partey go. You have to keep him.
Okay, keep him. Well, okay, so those are the thoughts of Kwadwo Ejejima, who's joining us from the heart of London. We want to hear from you as well. It's 055-11-11997, 055-11-11997, or plus 233-55-11-11997. Later on, as we always do, we'll activate the phone lines so that you can join us if you're able to get through with your thoughts about this particular subject, about some of our big talents and where we want to see them and what the dynamics are. Okay, David, Passionate Man has talked about, the issue of wages. And always when these conversations get to the wire like this, wages always come up. And sometimes the conversation has also been about, African talents going out there, giving their all, contributing so much, yet there is no balance between their high performances and the kinds of wages that they take away compared to their colleagues who come from other parts of the world.
Yeah, it's true, and it's a very, very fair argument, because if you look at the wage disparity, it's evident that African players are not paid as well, especially in terms of the amount of work that they put in on the field. They're not paid as well as their European or even South American counterparts from that perspective. With this situation, I think it's going to go down to wages as well as contract length time as well, because I'm sure that Arsenal would be prepared to pay him to stay on for 1 year, but I'm sure that he'd want at least a two-year deal. Amid offers from outside, there's a lot of other people that are also looking at Thomas. There's talk of Barcelona looking at him. There's talks of Saudi also looking at him as well, and even a lot of people are saying that it would be understandable if he ended up following the likes of Cristiano and the Tonys over to Saudi, because he's 32 years of age. Just be fair enough to say, okay, if he wants to make some money to I guess establish his legacy in terms of his children and his children's children, then it would make sense at the age of 32 to now then say, okay, yeah, let him have 2 or 3 years out in Saudi and make some good money. Good.
Yeah, you've raised a very important point. I'll come to Felix now, and I'll let him tell us about these dynamics about moving into a lucrative place. But let me come back to you, Kwadwo, very briefly. Now, this element. I mean, if you were advising Partey now, you'd push very hard with the other side to make sure that he's kept at Arsenal. Fine. So, how much of this conversation about the gulf would you entertain if you were in that same place?
I think for Partey, he looks at sporting activity as the first thing. Remember when Arsenal first signed him, he was signed as, quote unquote, the Vieira of the new era, a man that was going to be a cornerstone, of the new Arsenal. So he feels a bit unfulfilled should he leave and Arsenal just wins the title. But also, you have to look at the impact of what Partey brings to this Arsenal new setup. If Arsenal don't win the title, these are the dimensions that's going to happen. If they don't win the title next season, the talk of soccer leaving is going to spiral all over the place. If they don't win next season, there will be a lot of talking behind the scenes. Players will be quoted here and there. Because the life of a footballer, remember, averagely looking about 10 years if you have a very successful one, on the peak of your game. And so these boys, without winning trophies, they want to go, like Van Persie done years ago. So it's going to start talking. So for me, Thomas Partey is not even looking at the money now. Yes, of course, the contract is going to be very important to him. Remember, he's a footballer, he needs to earn his wages. But he's looking more of, I want to be in this team, but I want to be valued, because last season, I was the cornerstone of this Arsenal team. If you keep me for one more season, at least. And I think with him, he'll be okay if Arsenal keeps him for one more season and gives him the right wages that is due him as a player. Because if they let him go, he's going to be unfulfilled as a player because he wants to win the title of Arsenal. So it's like a win-win situation. But Arsenal also are looking at the business side. Zubimendi is 25, 26. If he comes in 1-2 seasons, he can be sold later on here. They're looking at the business side, just as they're looking at Sesko and Gyökeres, whom I think Gyökeres is ready, 27 years, ready to hit the ground running. They're looking at Sesko, a more younger player who can be a hit and miss. So they're looking at all these dynamics. But for me, Partey will be unfulfilled if he leaves Arsenal now. So his first option is to be able to deal with Arsenal, get a good deal, even if it's for a season. Then obviously he can look at the golf where he can make money from the golf. I think that the golf is not too much about being a good footballer going to the golf. They're trying to grow the game there. So they need the big names. They need the impact, global impact in the golf. So it's not too much about how if a good footballer you are, or how younger you are. It's like growing a brand. If David Beckham attaches to you, the brand grows. Thomas Partey has a cult following in Europe. He plays for Arsenal. He plays for Atletico Madrid. He plays for Ghana. So all over the world globally, he's quite known. And especially with the exploits last season, you knew how much his name traveled all over the place. And so crucial to a point that Arsenal was banking on him to be fit to play against Atletico Madrid, against PSG. So that's how much important his name has grown over the last few years. So for him, yes, the money is key, but I still think that he's got time for the golf. Thomas Partey's got at least 3 more seasons or a season more to go to the golf. But this season, his aim will be to hold on to Arsenal. But obviously, Attoh his job is on the line by next season. So he's trying to bring Zubimendi in. And I just think that all that Spanish connection, because all of them are from that similar area, from the Basque region. Remember, Zubimendi is from the Basque region. Merino is from the Basque region. Attoh is from the Basque region. So communication, everything is very flawless for the manager in that sense. Thomas Partey speaks fluent Spanish, fluent English. So for me, it is good for Partey's sportsmanship to be in Arsenal and look at the golf maybe a season later.
A season later. I don't know what you also want to suggest to us. That's why I'm expecting your messages. I'll be sharing some of them as we go along. 055-11-11997. 055-11-11997. Now, Felix, I want to place the more difficult one to you. We've had the suggestion about how, in his heart, he would prefer to stay at Arsenal. I mean, this is something he has expressed. But obviously, the realities of the day also confront you in a very big way. And that is what we're dealing with now. So, let's not even throw, the dice too far. Let's just keep it within England and, and the Gulf, because the Gulf is coming up very, very strongly. Which place, I mean, realistically, from what you also know, about his journey, realistically would be good for him at this time, considering all the factors that have been raised by David and Kwejo?
Well, Matt, I think that for Partey, he still wants to give a little bit of him in Europe. He wants to stay in Europe. I look at the leagues in Europe, and I think that he probably would want to stay in Arsenal. That would be a first option. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are saying that Arsenal are feeling reluctant to renew or give him a deal because of his injury situation. But if you look at the stats of Partey in the last 5 seasons, he's played 130 games for Arsenal. When he signed his first 2 seasons, he played 24 games in each of them. Then the season after, the 3rd season, he played 33 games. It was last 2 seasons where, because of injuries, he had only 14 games. And this season, he played 35 Premier League games for Arsenal. That is 130. Partey spent 7 years in Atletico Madrid. He played 127 games. And see, sometimes, like Kwame said, you look at the sporting aspect, but we should also forget the fact that Partey would want stability because he's got a new wife, got a new kid. So sometimes these decisions also play a part in players' movement, because if my family are getting settled in England, if they are okay in England, I would want to continue my journey. And aside that, I would be very disappointed if Arsenal don't renew Partey's deal, because he's not just a midfielder. If you look at Partey's height, physique, and trade, he can play across any of the 4 back line. You can put Partey in any of the central defense, he will play. Play him at right back, play him at left back. He will deliver for you. And he's done that for Diego Simeone several times. Maybe Arsenal is trying to feel reluctant in the fact that commercially they are not getting enough money, or they are not really getting anything from Partey because of other issues that I can't talk on radio. But one, Arsenal is not getting sales from Partey's shirts. They are not putting him on their match day, how they call it, magazine or whatever it is, for the match day program. The commercial aspect of Partey's image, Arsenal is not benefiting. And I'm sure that is the reason why they might want to reduce the wage or give him just a year. But I feel that Partey, if he's not signing for Arsenal, the best possible destination will have to be back in Spain, because they know what he can do. They know what he did for Atletico Madrid. And I feel that, yes, Madrid might be choked, and I don't think Madrid are looking for that option. One possible way is getting back to Atletico Madrid, but if you look at how the deal went between Atletico and Arsenal when he left, I don't think it's a place he wants to go back to. I look at Barcelona, and I feel that maybe there could be talks between Deco as to getting Partey back, because aside how good Barca were, they lack some kind of experience, and I think Partey is somebody who can offer that experience for Barcelona. So for me, I think the best option for him has to be in Spain or stay in England. In England, I don't think that he would want to go below some of the top 4 teams in the English Premier League. I don't see an Arsenal player going back to Spurs. So Spurs will be out of the question. Maybe Manchester United, if you look at Casemiro leaving, if you look at their shortage in that midfield, it could be a good option for Manchester United. For Chelsea, they've got a huge pile of midfielders. It won't be an option. You look at Newcastle. So I believe that Partey, if I'm the manager, if I'm the agent, I'll probably be looking at some of the top 4 teams aside Spurs, or maybe go back to Spain. Saudi shouldn't be an option now. I feel Partey has 2 years or more in Europe before he looks at the big bags in the Saudi league. But for now, I think that Arsenal, it will be a huge loss for Arsenal if they don't renew Partey's deal.
While we do all of this, let's just take a minute or two to talk about this buzz in the Gulf. Now, Saudi Arabia obviously are leading the charge when it comes to football and when it comes to boxing as well, with the Riyadh season concept, bringing all of the big bouts there and, taking a bit of that Las Vegas effect or that Nevada effect, there, to the rest of the world. Some years ago, you saw, the United Arab Emirates venture into that. I mean, and this is not a new thing. I mean, by the time Asamoah Gyan got to Al Ain, we had stories of other, players who had played, in the 90s era and all of that who found their way there. Who just seems, I mean, obviously Saudi Arabia has fallen ahead, but do we see any of the other countries in the Gulf trying to, push hard to get some of these stars? David?
Well, I think that for the Saudis,
I don't think so. I think Qatar definitely had some interest in.
Okay, Felix, I'll come back to you shortly. David was making a point, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Qataris had some interest at some point, but because they've already done and had their World Cup, you see, the thing about Saudis, they are looking at this thing on a very, very long-term basis. They're looking at it across the next 10, 15 years with their Mohammed bin Salman. They are looking at the future of the country outside of oil. They're looking at they're investing heavily, even in, you would think they wouldn't because oil is their major export, but they're investing heavily in renewable energy and investing heavily in electronic vehicles and the like. And sport is a way in which they're trying to invest heavily to bring about tourism. Heading off, I've been to Saudi, I think about 4 or 5 times now, across many different boxing events. And every time I go back, the place is transformed. There is so much going on and so much happening there, because not only are they trying to increase the tourism, they're also trying to keep the Saudi people in and entertained. as well. So they're doing that through entertainment, through so many different aspects, and it's building up to the crescendo of the World Cup, of which they now have. So this I think they will be the biggest players in sport, especially in football, and they're not doing it in a perspective where they want the oldish or just old washed up players. They pick up people like Ivan Toney, and there's players in their prime that they're trying to pick up.
And that's one thing I also realized. Back then when this whole concept started, it was more of players who were coming to the twilight of their respective career.
Exactly. You saw it in the MLS, because the MLS had a period of time where they were doing that, when they picked up Beckham very late on, picked up Wayne Rooney very late on, and so on and so forth. So many different players at the end of their career have gone there. Even Messi at the end of his career went to the MLS. You saw China had a period of time where they were doing that. Hulk went over there pretty young in his time. So there's quite a few Chelsea players that went over to China during the period of time. But Saudi's one isn't a flash in the pan. Saudi's one is part of a big strategy. They are looking to 10, 20 years in the future. The infrastructure that they're trying to build within Saudi Arabia requires this, and they are pushing mass amount of investment. Them getting Cristiano is part of that, but beyond just the likes of Cristiano, because I think he is an anomaly when it comes to it in terms of his age. They are looking at the best. They really want to ply and bring the best to Saudi Arabia. So I think this one, we shouldn't look at it from the lens in which, because listen, it's not just football. Us that operate in football, we see it from a football lens because we operate in football quite heavily. But if you're looking at sport as a whole, you will see they brought F1 over there. So now there's a race. Now there's a race in Saudi Arabia. They overtook one of the biggest majors in golf, right? Through their live golf tournament, where there was a huge beef between the players that decided to play for live golf and the ones that ended up staying within the majors, and there was a huge discrepancy between the two, and then Saudi ended up buying the other tournament anyway. So they're not playing even as simple as snooker, as sports like snooker and darts, the whole sports sphere. They're trying to bring in, right? So, and it's not on a small scale or on a small level. They are really, this is a 20, 30-year project that the head of Saudi, the Crown Prince of Saudi is really pushing. So, I think we've just seen the start of it, and I think a lot of teams and a lot of players are going to be looking in that direction in the coming years.
Okay, Kwejo, let's come to you for some comments. I know you have other engagements this afternoon, but this subject and gradually, as the years go by, we're seeing, just like David is saying, we're seeing a lot happen within that space. Saudi has placed itself strategically. Qatar decided to host the World Cup for various reasons, including eventually also having a very solid system of football domestically. How much more talent do you see them drawing into their leagues, over the coming years because of this Cristiano Ronaldo buzz? And it's not just Saudi, but generally the Gulf because of this example.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep investing into the youth, and they have a strategy, and the strategy is quite very simple. Sports, connects a lot of people together globally, and so they've seen what global sports can have, the impact they can have, and they've seen that football is one of the major ones. So they looked at boxing, they look at football, and then they targeted Formula One as well. But remember, there's always a lot of youth connection. There's a lot of energy connected to football, to sports in general. So, and they've seen that because football is much loved across board, it doesn't matter wherever it's being played, as long as it's over there. And so for them, the strategy is quite simple, to bring the best of European players to be able to project what they want to do in the long term, because they're looking at this in a very, very, very long term. They want to build and make sure that whatever they're doing, they have that impact that they're looking at, so they can be able to be as close to reckon And they know that with time they can build, they can have that impact, and so that's what they're looking at now.
Interesting. Now, Felix was making a point earlier. Felix.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were making a point about the, this whole buzz around the golf and, how, Cristiano Ronaldo's example is just going to, and you see some subtle competition as well between especially the UAE and Saudi, within that space.
Well, I think that for the golf, it has always been strategic for them. They have the money. And if you look at what the Qataris did, I think that one of the reasons why they invested so much in their football was the fact that they wanted to bid for the World Cup. They wanted to win the hosting rights for the World Cup. And they used that strategy to gain it. And they had, in fact, one of the biggest World Cup events in terms of attendance, in terms of coverage, in terms of the amount of money that was spent on the World Cup. And if you look at the Saudis, they have gotten the bid to host the next 3 editions of the World Cup. And I'm sure that is the reason why they went investing so much in the Saudi league. It was for them to make sure that they get to host the World Cup. And they've been able to achieve that. And I think that they are ready to still invest more because they want to make sure that by the time they host the World Cup, they have done a lot in terms of projecting the image of the Saudi league, projecting their football, investing in their football. Aside that, they also are investing in bringing talent into Saudi because they also want the Saudi players to learn from these players that are coming in. And by the time that they get to host the World Cup, it won't just be for show, but they will also put up a very competitive national team to compete at the World Cup, which they will be hosting. So for the Qataris, for the Saudis, for the Gulf region, it's been strategic for them, and that is the reason why I think one of the key reasons was to improve their league and also get the hosting rights for the World Cup. And their investment and interest in their leagues have pushed them to successfully get the bids to hold the World Cup.
So if I'm getting everyone right around the table, it's a unanimous, call for, all the forces, if they were all listening to us, to have a, party stay on at Arsenal because it will make much more football sense. It will make much more sentimental sense and all of that, right?
Yeah. No, it will. It would. It would make a lot more sense. And I think especially for Ghanaians, because the Premier League is such a widely exported, or the biggest exported football league, I think it's good for the nation to have our players playing in that league. I think it would be a shame for Partey to end up going to the Saudi league. I think for us, because he's an export, he is an ambassador for Ghana, him and Kudus. So, even though I'm not an Arsenal fan, right, quite the opposite, but I would prefer him to be in the Premier League for that very reason, because it's a shining light on Ghana, and it's a shining light on the nation.
You mentioned Kudus Mohammed, and that's one of the subjects of the conversation this afternoon. Like we mentioned earlier, this is a fine player. Found himself there, during his boyhood years at the, Right to Dream Academy and New York Academy, and got the talent honed very well. Found himself out there, within the North Zealand family, and then got that very big break, into the English Premier League. Now, then he came in with all sorts of, presence, if I may put it that way, for the fans. He was scoring goals, controlling the midfield, his custom celebration and all of that, bringing a new brand, into the West Ham family. He scored on his debut for the Black Stars, a great deal indeed, and immediately, within a very short period of time, became a very important item in the Black Stars team, especially because, the national team is also going through a transition. Now, the Kudus story at West Ham, I don't know where you place it. I mean, in terms of the run so far, the impression is made, and how inseparable he could be from the West Ham brand at this time.
Yeah, no, he has fully established himself within West Ham. The supporter base over there absolutely love him. as a player. He burst onto the scene over there. It was with a lot of promise, especially coming over from Ajax. There was Arsenal talk surrounding him. West Ham managed to get him, and I know a lot of people who played the fantasy Premier League and have him in their team because he is good value. He is always involved in positive natures of the game, be it scoring, be it assisting, or be it key passes. He's been a fantastic player for them, and he's been somebody who the fans absolutely love and adore over there. I would love to see him at a bigger club in the Premier League, and I know there's been talks of him possibly moving at some stage this summer.
Okay, so moving at some stage, during the summer. Now let's talk about that. Felix, is this the time for Kudus to step away from West Ham? And if he should, where should he find himself?
I don't think so. But if you talk about winning trophies, if you talk about competing in other European competitions, then probably you say that he moving away from West Ham will give him the opportunity. But I feel that he is well suited for the English game. We saw that 2 seasons when he came into the English Premier League, he gave us one of the best seasons in his career. Last season wasn't all that good. And sometimes when there is a change of manager, it distorts the performance of players. And we saw West Ham doing that. And that consistency in terms of the managerial position wasn't there for Kudus to strive, and I think that also in a way affected his season. But I feel that if he wants to move from West Ham, I think that the English game still suits him. Chelsea are looking for wingers, and if there's a good deal, and if Chelsea come calling, I think that if the money is right, West Ham might also want to do business with him. I've always been saying this. I don't understand why Manchester United went to Ajax. They saw Kudus and rather bought Anthony. But now Anthony, I don't see Anthony returning to United. He probably might go on loan again. So it will be a very fine opportunity if United also enter the market for somebody like Kudus. Kudus can play in any part of midfield, probably aside the defensive aspect of the midfield. Offensive-minded, can play behind a striker, can play on the flank. So he's somebody who is not suited for one particular position. He's very versatile, and I think that a lot of the English clubs would want to sign him if the price is right and if West Ham are willing to sell. But I think that for me, I would prefer him being the top 4, top 5 team, because I want to go back to the days where I was watching Kudus play in the Champions League with Ajax, and I don't think that a team like West Ham would give him that opportunity. So if he's moving, it should be within the top 4 or top 5 teams in the English Premier League.
Any suggestions?
I'm a Chelsea fan. I would love to have him. I think that with Sancho leaving,
same here, Sancho, same here.
Okay.
Same here.
All right, yeah. And with Sancho leaving, I think that getting Kudus won't be a bad option at all. And I feel that he can give Chelsea a lot of attacking dimension that Enzo Maresca will want. So, yes, and there's been rumors that Chelsea really want to look at him if they are not getting get-ins from Dortmund or maybe Joao Pedro from Brighton. So if he's available, I know Chelsea wants, and he fits into the profile of the age category that Chelsea really want to sign. He's still young, he's still a lot of football in him. So as a Chelsea fan, I think I'll be so much excited to see another Ghanaian wearing the Chelsea jersey in Mohamed Kudus.
Okay, I'll get onto the messages very shortly and gauge your thoughts as well. Remember, in a bit, I'll be activating the phone line, and we'll also be going over to Morocco, where the Black Queens team are preparing themselves. They will be playing, a friendly against Nigeria this weekend as they prepare themselves for the very big one itself, playing in the Africa Cup of Nations. Could this just be the year when our women step up to the plate and win the most important silverware in women's football on the African continent, the women's AFCON? Well, Nigeria have done it quite a number of times now. Ghana, with all the talent and with all the interesting run. Still haven't been able to get all the way up to the top. So Doris Bwediwa, who is the Women's Footballer of the Year at the Ghana Football Awards, will be joining us for a brief chat about how that accolade is inspiring her to, whip up all her teammates together so that they go for the big one, or they go for gold, in the Women's AFCON. Still here having the conversation about our talents, some of the top talents in our Black Stars team here in Ghana who are applying their trade in the major leagues in Europe, and what it could be looking like for them, as they go along, in the as we go along this summer transfer window. We've been talking about Thomas Partey. I don't know what your thoughts are. Join us with them. We've been talking about Mohamed Kudus as well. We'll now throw the focus on Antoine Semenyo. Antoine Semenyo, he's, if I may say, just gotten the job done. Exhibiting great, instinct, exhibiting some very good. He's got some very good physical attributes as well for a striker who would intimidate any defense setup. Scoring some very good, decent goals as well, putting himself there on the relevant names within the score sheets, during the season. Yeah, no, he really has established himself very well, Antoine. And I think there's quite a few clubs that are looking at him during this summer season as well. A lot of clubs need players that can score goals. A lot of clubs are suffering for strikers at the moment, and for players that are able to put the ball in the back of the net. So he is looking like some degree of a hot property during this transfer window. Obviously, we had a brief 10 days where the transfer window opened, and then it closed, and then it's reopened again. But then also this week, I believe on the 1st of July, that's when the PSR resets again, and teams are able to use a different degree of their budget, and I think we can see him on the move. On the move, and once again, I would ask where, because the where always becomes very important. No, it does. It definitely does. Like I said, there's. It depends on some of these things. It depends on where the dice falls with a lot of other players. So, for example, Newcastle, are they going to end up losing Isak? And if they end up losing Isak, would they then also look at somebody like Semenyo to come in? You're looking at Brentford, who are losing, who might be losing Brian Mbeumo. That's a huge amount of goals on that side. Are they going to also be looking at? So it depends on the way in which all of these other pieces, start to fall into line. But I definitely do believe that he will end up moving to a decent side this summer. Well, a decent side this summer. The conversation about Antoine Semenyo. Let's come to you, Felix. Antoine, you believe that a move would help him, would push him even further, and if you'd want to see him go, where would you want to see him go to? Bring it up. Okay, so would re-establish contact with Felix one more time. But remember, you can keep your messages coming. Yeah, keep the messages coming. It's 055 1111997. 055 1111997. We'll activate the phone lines very shortly so that you can join us with your thoughts, as well. Let me ask you this, David. A lot of the time when transfer talk comes up and we're in the thick of this summer transfer window, and you see Ghanaian names pop up, tell me, about the feeling from the point of view of a fan. First of all, take away your media side and your analyst eye. Look at it from the pure perspective of a football fan. A Ghanaian football fan who is following all of these big names and these big talents, global talents all over the place, and now gets to see one of their own there competing for spaces and competing for these big money moves. Yeah, for me personally, I love to see, Ghanaian talent in the Premier League or in the top flight, because I think it only seeks to benefit us, and it seeks to benefit our national team. It seeks to benefit Ghana as a whole. I think it's there was a time where we had so many players playing in the Premier League. So for me, it's good when I see. For me, it's a sense of pride seeing our players
out here, and there's just the general world knowing our style and seeing our playing style and falling in love with our players, and from that perspective, I think it's very important for us as a nation, but also very important for us as a national team, because they get to ply their trade against some of the best, which then prepares them for the bigger tournaments.
All right, we've also been joined by journalist Michael Akomia. Michael has also been following the movements in Europe and has some thoughts to share with us. Michael, we've been on the subject of Partey, of Kudus Mohammed and Antoine Semenyo, who seem to be the front runners when it comes to conversations around transfer talk and where we could possibly see them. Now, I was just asking David a question about, him as a fan, and I'm going to ask you this before we go further. For you as a fan, how much value do you draw from seeing, Ghanaian players there in the thick of the action when we're discussing these transfer, these major transfer windows, and we find them in there, a subject of major interest in different leagues or in different football destinations around the world?
Yes, Big Nath. A very good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. Personally, I will feel very proud to hear Ghanaian players being linked to other clubs in major European leagues. You would always wish that your countrymen would be doing so well in and around various big clubs in Europe, where they could influence the game one way or the other through different means. I think, in a nutshell, these conversations that has been actually brought up at this stage, discussing where they should move to, how they should take their decisions, and all of these things boils down to the fact that they've performed so well. Looking at the season under review, and you'd understand that their massive impact will definitely draw attention to them. But it's a matter of what next. What is going to be their choice? What are they looking up to? Is it money-driven kind of move, or more or less project-driven kind of move in this particular aspect? And you have to also look at their ages and what they can do in Europe in the long run if they should choose either money or project. I think it aligns with their kind of motivation in moving to the next club they're actually looking forward to play for. For example, you look at Thomas Partey and his age, and you ask two questions. Is it going to be about project? Or number two, is it going to be about money? You look at Mohamed Kudus' age and the kind of ambition that he has, you ask, is it going to be money driven or actually project driven? Or is it going to be both? These are questions we are going to ask ourselves in terms of looking at the next choices these Ghanaian players are going to take. But for performances, I think these guys, they've proven beyond reasonable doubt that they deserve to move to maybe bigger clubs or different clubs to show the world what they have.
There's also the talk about Kamaldeen Suleiman. I mean, Kamaldeen, slightly younger, he's seen as one of the faces or the names that have a great future, or a future ahead of them, playing in the big leagues around the world. Now he is switched into the Italian Serie A. Gone were the days when we had, big bite in the Italian Serie A. I'm talking about the Sule Muntaris, the Kwejua Samuels, the Emmanuel Ajiman Bedus and all, plying their trade in the Italian Serie A and making massive impact. What would you say about him and what that move to Atalanta could do to lift his profile and, of course, bring something out of him that could get him to be a big product that can switch, into a league that is drawing more numbers and more attention from around the world?
I think where Kamaldeen Sulemana finds himself is more about him rather than the club he's going to play for. I think everything clearly shows that he's really talented. The potential is there. His days in the French League are, and even moving to the English Premier League. But unfortunately, I think he has not been lucky with injuries. It is one particular thing that you can't literally fault him for. But I think he can also do something about it, especially looking at his diet, a lot of things, maybe take his blood sample somewhere, work things out, give him certain routines that can help him become fit, play more games. And I think he also needs to work on his finishing. I think he's really poor with his finishing and he needs to deal with it. I think decision making at some point to certain phases of the game, which he also needs to improve in the long run. But for him moving to Atalanta, good platform to showcase his talent. But I actually believe he needs to work on himself decision making and a lot of things to make sure that he's worth that particular move in terms of playing for Atlanta at that stage. The opportunity is there because playing under Zurich gives him the leverage because Zurich worked with Southampton for quite some few months, and he left to Atlanta to replace Gianpiero Gasparani. I would have been happy if it was Gasparani. I've watched Zurich's team in the Italian Serie A. He has actually developed one or two talents here and there. But if it was Gasparani, I would have been super excited looking at what he did with Ademola Lookman. But with Zurich, I believe Kamaldeen Sulemana should also put himself in the spotlight, take more responsibility, work on himself and develop. And I think the platform will literally bring him out and open him up for various clubs to also see.
Interesting stuff there. We've expressed thoughts about Thomas Partey and all. I don't know where you stand on the subject. Let's begin with Thomas. There's a general consensus that look, he has to stay. If it's possible, he should stay at Arsenal because next season could just be the season for Arsenal, considering also that Mikel Arteta has been given a very, very long rope and been given a lot of patience to see if he can win a major trophy for the Gunners.
Manchester City, I think Thomas Partey will start for most of the clubs in the Premier League. I know Liverpool is having Gravenberch, but personally, I believe Thomas Partey have enough experience to be playing for Liverpool. He has enough experience to be playing for Manchester United, even for Chelsea, most of the top clubs in the English Premier League. Even when you go to Juventus, he has the ability to start for them. Top clubs in and around Europe. The other time, I was even talking about something like Partey looking at Real Madrid and the kind of profile they need in the middle of the pack. Not necessarily about the names, but the kind of profile Real Madrid needs to replace a player like Toni Kroos in the middle of the pack. Thomas Partey will definitely give you that. But it's a matter of who is managing him, who is his agent, what is the kind of links he's having. Because you look at players like Choupo-Moting and the kind of clubs they've had the opportunity to play for, and where they literally moved to, even after moving from their initial clubs, you would understand that we lack in that particular aspect. But when you look at Partey now, where he's coming from and the limited options, is it about projects or is it about money? I personally feel that projects will literally play like 30% in a row when it comes to the decision making of Thomas Partey in choosing which club is going to be his next club. I think 70% is going to be about finances, 30% is going to be about project. But let's see if the Saudi Arabians will come in and get him to go and play in their league. And the Saudi league is now more competitive too. As compared to some other leagues we've already been watching, especially when you look at the Dutch league and the Saudi league. Personally, I've watched the two leagues, and I believe the Saudi league is gaining more traction. Look at Al Hilal's performance at the Club World Cup, and they're also getting enough kind of opportunity to play against the big guns whenever the opportunity arises. The AFC Champions League and all of these things, it's gaining the traction. But I think for Thomas Partey, with the limited options he's having now, it's not about his quality. I believe if he had good agents to link him to these clubs, he'll be getting the opportunity to play for these clubs. But I think with the limited opportunities he's having, project driven is really going to be like 30%. He's always going to be moved alongside with the 70%, which is money to go and play.
We've talked about Kudus Mohammed as well. Kudus has had a fairly good run. He when he comes back home to the Black Stars, he had the opportunity to lead, so now it's spelling a new era for him and a new chapter for him in his work with the national team, which also has a different leg of value that it adds to him as a product. For you, where do you see him standing as we get ourselves ready for another new season?
I believe we all should come together and help Kudus to make the better decision, because where he finds himself is the kind of position where you believe that his next club should actually reflect his status. Young man, quality player, consistent for West Ham, not a fulfilled potential, which I actually believe that even under a different manager than Graham Potter, he could perform better than what we have actually seen from him. He's a key part of the Ghana national team project. So we should pay close attention to his development and the kind of choices he's going to actually make at this moment in time. It should not be about money driven. I believe you should look at the project, look at the platform before even thinking about the huge money that these particular projects will bring. I know that certain clubs can come in and give him all that he wants, especially project money, and even the platform to actually perform, and the whole world is actually going to see him. But does he also have options? This is where I'm also coming from, because it looks like our Ghanaian players have limited options whenever they want to move. This is where the problem lies with. If they have a lot of options, like I'm moving to Barcelona, I'm moving to Manchester United, I'm moving to Chelsea, most of these clubs, then you have the right one to pick, or the choices to pick, where you can enjoy money, where you can enjoy the project, and where you can also enjoy the platform. You look at the Ghanaian players as compared to the Nigerian players. Now look at the player like Vito Osimhen. Now look at the player like Victor Boniface. If they are on the market, what kind of clubs are going to look out for them? Look at Ademola Lookman. When they are on the market, what kind of clubs are going to look out for them? So their options is so big to a certain extent that you can literally get a club that can offer you all of these three things we are talking about. But if it is limited, I think this is where sometimes the kind of decision will have to come in. If you are choosing it because of project, you are choosing it because of money, or you are choosing it because of both without the platform, or even the platform without the money and even a better project. But I think he needs to calm down, take his time, open up his tentacles, a lot of wings, involve different clubs, and choose the right one. But I wish he stays in Europe, plays the UEFA Champions League, because he's talented enough not to move out of Europe. And that is why I believe it's going to help him.
I'm throwing back to the last time, the very first time that Ghana qualified for the FIFA World Cup back in 2006. And at the time, we had quite a good number of players who were playing in top leagues around the world. And it was brought to bear on the form of the national team. There was no doubt about that. Now, what kind of impact do you expect all these moves to have, especially as we build up gradually to the final leg of qualifiers for the next FIFA World Cup? It has been said that now that the format of the World Cup has been expanded in terms of attendance and participation, it will be such a felony if Ghana lose out on playing there or answering the roll call.
Yes, it's important that these things can have a massive impact in the Black Stars, especially in the dressing room. But I've grown to also understand one thing, that football is not about big names. Football is about the big team that you create in the dressing room. And definitely when you have some of these guys also move to this class, maybe they have one or two influences that they will get and bring it into the dressing rooms of the national team to help us whenever things are really bad. For example, when we were playing for the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, I think we drew a game far away in South Africa against Ethiopia also, and there was the guy in the dressing room who made a bold statement that if you are not ready to make sure that we get good results in Ghana, or you are scared to even go to Ghana, don't join us or don't even try coming. You need such figures in the dressing room. It is because he's had enough experience at Olympic Marseille, played in and around Europe, understand what it means to overcome losses, and try and bring the squad together when it needs most to get the best out of them as a leader on the pitch. That is what really matters. So if they get to clubs where they are not only going to be shaped by the kind of quality or potential they have, but actually shape their leadership qualities, that they could bring it to their national teams to come and help, is really going to be very impactful. And when you enter into a dressing room, you see Kudus, who plays for maybe Chelsea or Manchester United. Thomas Partey plays for Arsenal, a leader in the dressing room. You look at another player, plays for maybe Juventus in the dressing room, not only in terms of potential, but as a leader or as a key part of the Juventus project and all of these things. I think you become a little bit humble. Your work becomes quite easier, even as a coach, in terms of giving out information out there, especially when they are committed to kill for you.
What for you has been the standout? We've discussed about 4 players. What for you has been the standout element for each of them? So let's do Partey, let's do Kudus, let's do Antoine Semenyo, and then Kamaldeen Sulemana, who have been the subject. We've hovered the conversations around them.
I think for Kamaldeen, I will state only one thing: potential. It is there. You could clearly see it. It is quite open that you can see it. For Thomas Partey, I'll talk about, I think, leadership and quality and experience. So leadership, quality, and experience, these 3 things, I think it stands out for Thomas Partey. For Mohamed Kudus, I'll talk about quality And I don't think leadership is really there. But for now, there's quality and there's a little bit of consistency. Then you look at someone like Antoine Semenyo for this season, consistency, quality. And I think he's up there. But for leadership, I think it will take quite some time. So you look at these 4 players we've actually spoken about who are key elements in our national team, and even one way or the other for their clubs in the season under review. I think Thomas Partey will have to do with the leadership, quality and experience, Kamadin potential. Mohamed Kudus will talk about quality and consistency. Then Antoine Semenyo, I'll go with quality and consistency.
Interesting. And so in terms of the levels of quality, how well, are we doing in terms of having a very good talent pool? Because as we focus on the World Cup, the conversation is about, getting the national team to have that kind of form that we're looking forward to, so they can get us the results. Because now we've been able to get all the way to the quarterfinals. Now, in terms of quality, when you look at it on a general scale of things, or in the general scheme of things, how fast do you think our players and our talent are growing? We've had the stories of those who are playing here on the domestic scene. Accra Hearts of Oak's number 1 goalie is one of the biggest testaments of players who are growing. But when you look at it on the general scheme of things, and all the players who've had the opportunity to play for the Black Stars in the past couple of months, how well are they growing in terms of their profile, in terms of the kind of bite that they bring, whether to club or to country?
I think if you are addressing a general consensus about talent development and stages at which our players are growing, I would say that it is not moving at a faster pace for us. But individually, we could pick some 1 or 2 players. I believe that their talent is actually moving to different levels. For example, I think the Mohamed Kudus we saw at Ayas is not the same Mohamed Kudus we are seeing at West Ham. I think the Thomas Partey we've seen is not the same Thomas Partey we are seeing now. A player like Antoine Semenyo, I saw him when he moved to Bournemouth, and the kind of development we've actually seen around his quality this season, there's a massive improvement. But when they come to the national team, or when you bring all of them together to one place, this is why I actually believe that the kind of environment we've created, the kind of things we show these guys at the national team level, and a lot of things we expect from them, we have not been able to achieve it. It's quite slow. It will take quite some time as a team to see talent grow in this particular setup that we have at the Black Stars. It will take time. But individually, I think at their club size, there are a few of them we can talk about that they've been fast-tracked, or they've actually moved ahead of the timeline that we actually presume for them that they are going to use it to grow in terms of their talent and their potential. There's a lot of work to be done. You look at players like Fatah Ishak, who had a splendid season during the qualification phase of Leicester City. That brought them to the Premier League. But funnily, injury situations prevented him from developing more, even playing in the Premier League this season, where they are going back to the Championship. I'm hoping that things move fast for most of our key players, and experience comes to bear to help us qualify and perform well when we even go to the World Cup.
Well, so qualification will definitely come, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, qualification will come. Qualification will come.
Okay, what makes you so confident, though?
I think per the games that we have, if you are playing Mali at home, if you are playing Chad at home, and you only have one away, Chad away, and you have some other games you are supposed to play here and there. I think the most difficult one is going to be with Mali at home. But for Comoros at home, Mali at home, I think is really not going to be a difficult task to accomplish.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. Thank you so much, Michael, for the time here on the show. We sure are going to be doing more as we go along, but we're grateful for your comments. But just before you go, Asante Kotoko Accra Hearts of Oak, the fixture for the President's Cup. A big draw?
Yes, I think the only thing that we lack in this particular fixture is the kind of quality football you expect to watch. I think the last few games has not been good. You look at the kind of money these two teams invest in terms of bringing in players, and the kind of football we watch in the long run, I think you become so disappointed. To be very honest, the last fixture at Accra Sports Stadium was really that bad. I wouldn't lie. It was really frustrating to watch. and the things that came to bear, the kind of quality we saw on the field of play, I did not really enjoy it. But the last President's Cup we played, I think he gave us all the juice. That was when Samba and there, most of these guys joined Kotoko, Peter, Miduakwa, you saw Bernard Sumwa. Most of these guys tried to play well and give us a very good game. I think we are going to enjoy it this time around again, especially when their new signings came to bear. And you know, Karim Zito and Didi Dramani and House of Folk will do 1 or 2 recruitments coming into this particular fixture. We'll see a different bite to this game. And I'm expecting a quality football match between the two sides. They've been disappointing in the season, though, looking at the kind of points they've accumulated. And we're expecting them to be fighting for the title. No matter the level of House of Folk or Kotoko, you expect them to fight for the title at every single point in time. But this time around, we are not getting it like that. But Kotoko did well in winning the FA Cup. So they'll also be having enough confidence coming into this particular fixture. Let's hope to enjoy it. But I will say that manage your expectations, especially when you are going out there to go and look out for quality football. Manage your expectations because these two teams, they've disappointed us.
Another subject for another day. Michael, thank you so much for your time on the show.
Sure about that.
Some Shatawale flavor right there. So let me give you an idea of the groups for the next Women's AFCON. It's Group A has host Morocco, Zambia, who now have Nora Hopto, our immediate past coach, Senegal, and DR Congo. In Group B, there's the Super Falcons of Nigeria, Tunisia, Algeria, and Botswana. And then, of course, in Group C, there's the Bayana of South Africa, the Black Queens of Ghana, Mali, and Tanzania. A big apology to everyone. We're not able to bring you the conversation with the reigning Ghana Football Awards Women's Footballer of the Year. They've had to go into training, so we'll bring it to you sometime during the week.
Eyes on you like a photo. Make I be your Rambo. I don't go play you like a lotto. I the ball like Ronaldo. She turn around, I start to see double. I don't die today, my guy. I don't dey trouble. Oh yeah, take it easy, make us agara.
Take this message from Minko Joseph in Ablekuma. He says not only players careers, but in marriages too. Okay, so a lot of marriages are collapsing because some. Okay, is it? Did I get the message right? Okay.
She says she not come for the money. She says she not come for the house. She says she not come for the.
Igoro in Tema Community 1side10 says, I feel like Arsenal is cursed since the departure of Aubameyang. It's obviously clear that they need a potent striker as the final piece of their team to be considered as a grade A team. But year in, year out, they end up making needless signings. Okay, thank you very much, Aziz.
If I wedding today, honeymoon go be Monaco. Pretty girl, make it take my heart.
Good day, now thumbs up for the great work you're doing all this while. If I had an opportunity to advise Partey, I'll just tell him, hey boy, look sharp. It's good to play for a big club and enjoy all the fame. But there's life after football. So go and take the few years remaining in Saudi Arabia so you can make as much and secure a good future. And Nat, also, Mr. Ivan Bruskujo is certainly the favorite to transform and move Ghana boxing forward in the best interest of Mother Ghana. This is from Prosper Dominion in Dakuman. Okay, so that's a very interesting message. Of course, as we go along, we'll also be discussing all of the people who are, or the names and faces who are up for leadership in Ghana boxing. It's something we're going to bring back sometime during the week as well. So Inko Joseph says Arsenal will regret later for not renewing Partey's contract. The upcoming President's Cup is going to be one of the best. Let's all make it on time on Sunday.
Play my trumpet for you, baby. Shut up while Mr. Love Man, Mr. Love Man, nice. And everybody make me fun, mommy.
There's this other one that says, my name is George. Okay, I live somewhere around mile 7. This man called Address Berta, the current technical director of Arsenal Football Club, was the same person who paid Partey the slavery monthly salary at Atletico Madrid. When Arsenal stepped in and made him a sensible offer, he stood against the deal, and Arsenal had to pay his release clause value to La Liga on onward payment to Atletico. Now he has a bitter bone to pick with Partey, and no matter what Partey does, he will want him out. Just ask yourself, which management will want the best player out on grounds of being 30 years, only to replace him with another 30-year-old? Thank you very much, George Okai, for that message. Sonny Intama says Partey should leave Arsenal. Arsenal will not give him any cup. Their coach is not the trophy-winning coach. I think Partey should rather be going to huge salary-paying teams. 30 plus is not a trophy-looking age, but money-making stage in football. Okay, thank you very much, Sonny, for that message. Okay, on the note of all of those messages, I'd like to say a very big thank you to all of you for watching and listening to the show.
You give me that sensation. Tell you to shock me like high tension.
Thanks to the whole production team led by Benaya Elom Dafiamekbo. If you have time and you're driving by the Elwak Stadium, you should drive by the stadium, drive in, because the Ghana Volleyball Association is having their Knockout 2025 competition. Security services teams and civilian teams going up against each other. It's just amazing. Joy Sports is covering all of this on our socials, so you get on our socials if you're not able to drive by to have the live action. Thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another Joy Sports link. Coming up will be your man Kwame Dazi with Showbiz A to Z together with the rest of the crew. Hey, and Kwame Dazi today, Kwame is wearing white too.
Stadium.
Charlie,
tomorrow,
white inside.
No, tomorrow, Joe Metal is having his praise reload.
Oh, you mean Joe Ni Ama Metal?
Ni Ama Metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it means that Elwak is busy this time around.
Yeah,
there's a volleyball happening there right now, and tomorrow Joe Metal is taking over.
Or Joe Party. You see, your mind make you money, sports.
But it's interesting. One of the things that always strike me about Joe is that, in as much as he's moved so far, becoming a very big international Ghanaian gospel brand, he still maintains this very big knack of humility, and it's just amazing. I've introduced him on stage a number of times, and every other time, you're doing all of these. You do all of these accolades for him, and it's focused. Cool, calm about it.
And one thing I like about him is he has a very solid team behind him.
That's true.
And they understand the business of this show.
Yeah. And his band, Love Gift Band,
oh, yes.
they're just amazing. Yeah.
Fantastic.
One of these days, I'm going to get you in. You play any instruments?
I do a bit of the keyboard. Not a bit, kakra. Like, kakra, otuni mama, they be fast, yeah, man. I used to play the keyboard at church. Yeah, I used to sing as well.
Yeah.
I'm getting rusty, though.
Yeah. So we need to go back, make a few appearances.
Yes, we can do that.
You can't be doing Kinky Party alone in the
You see?
So this afternoon is going to be interesting.
Yeah, we're having a continuation of the conversation we started last 2 weeks, the one on event organizers and the challenge they go through. So we're having a part 2 of that with a different set of panel today. And then we have a conversation, an interview with Richie Mensah as well. It's
Richie.
A hit, man.
Hey, Richie. I hope you are going to ask him that question about
that. So we'll do it. Don't worry about that.
Richie, there, you have to ask him about that one.
Oh, yes.
That thing that happened there. It's not too far from here.
Oh, yeah.
Kwame, you have a wonderful one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Kwame Dazi will be here on your radio together with the rest of the team. And involved in the team is the man DJ Wobete. But my name is Nathaniel Attoh, and I have love for sport.